Well, one of the issues currently is that we are in the hurricane zone, and so significantly we've had a tremendous number of hurricanes over the last 20 years until Katrina, and after Katrina we've since not had any. So it's enough time was spent learning from Ivan and Katrina, which really hit our region and our community. But at that time, the downtown community had 18 feet of storm surge. The actual storm surge was some 30 feet inland, and so it impacted numerous homes and businesses and transportation infrastructure, sewer infrastructure, all of those things were impacted. And so after, particularly after Katrina and between Katrina and Ivan, we changed a lot of our zoning. We changed a lot of our impacts that to deal with mitigating water runoff and things of that nature. You know, early on, we wanted to depend on FEMA to deal with everything, and they've been stressed in so many ways with the flooding issues across the Gulf Coast, and now more currently up the East Coast. But so we've tried to engage all of our communities. There are 26 cities in this two-county area, and so we've engaged them along with the developers in dealing with the infrastructure of sewage. What are the outfall lines? How much more can we retain on site? And the working, it's an agrarian community, so there are a lot of farms. We started working with our farmers and trying to do more catch ponds so that they could catch the water inland and not send it essentially into the aquifers or into the rivers, streams, creeks, which immediately gave us an influx of water along the coastal area, which is where so many of our people live. And so that was a good plan that we've implemented. The support has, been somewhat sporadic in that one must write for a grant, and that grant has to, go through the competitive nature of what grants, go through, and then sometimes implementing a grant that might have connotations of climate change in our area do not make it very far. I could, we've laughed about this in our committee meetings already, in that if you talk about climate change, that is really an unhealthy political issue, but if you talk about recurring flood events, you can talk about that all day long. And so it puts, political brands on people who you can speak about recurring flood issues and not be branded somewhat, and so that's an issue that we have to deal with.
So how important is it for this bipartisan group of locally elected officials to get together and talk about coastal
Well,
standards?
and I've already learned of ways to go back home and rebrand and recraft the message, so that we're all dealing with it, and whether we're dealing with it, if I don't live on the coast, I'm dealing with the ramifications of money, taxpayer dollars, which eventually have to go to deal with the problems that are created. And so I think it's a far greater area that my constituent base should work with and have a better understanding. One of the things that has been a real obstacle is, and I currently am serving my fourth term in the legislature. So what has happened significantly in my community has been turnover in elected officials. So too often we vest all of this energy and invest the energy in a 5-member city council or a 5-member county commission, and before long there's an 80% turnover over a period of time, and you seem to have to recreate the message one more time for a new member. and ultimately encourage them to be a risk taker. And so that's been a real challenge. And so I would say that the constituency base of any community needs to be broader and more educated about the issues that we're dealing with at the political level. With stormwater is a key issue for us, or rising tides in our community. And so that's been a real problem for me in seeing since 2008 so much turnover in the political landscape of the community at city level, county level, and at the state level. Well, I would just say, of course, our community was one of the communities along the Gulf Coast that was impacted by the deep water horizon from the BP oil spill. And so we've been dealing with a lot of loss of revenue, a lot of loss of jobs, tax base, and things of that nature. We're now getting to the settlement stage of the BP fines, and so Alabama has received a $1.2 billion payout for environmental, economic, and ecosystem grants. So with that money, we're really hoping to harden our community so that you can shelter in place, and because it's costly anytime you have to evacuate for hurricanes and things of that nature. So we're going to be using that money and working for long-range planning in that area. Those payouts will come in a 16-year payout, and so the money is not all at once, so you can really put some programs in place that can deal with stormwater management and sea level rise and things of that nature. Another issue is that the state also received a $1 billion payout, of which our governor currently plans to, we have a significant amount of debt that's left over from the 2008 recession. It's close to $700 million. So he wants to take the $1 billion and spend it on debt reduction. And so it's creating a battle for the legislators in South Alabama to work with the governor. So you have a